Hi guys, this is Dr. Brian Opp from Opp Family Chiropractic right here in St. Francis, and we are going to go into our next webinar, which is on men's and women's health. So some of the biggest challenges that each of these types of people face. So what I want to encourage you is download our handy dandy guide here, our most common health challenges. So we have a guide that you can download to go through some questionnaires with that. If you are watching this live, you've already downloaded this webinar guide. If you're not, I encourage you to download this so you can go through and take notes as I'm talking on the slides that we're going to go through today. Also, we have our health appraisal questionnaire, which I find very helpful when I start talking with patients who come in for challenges having to do with hormones, especially because it's not just hormones. We have to go through your whole system, through the whole body's systems, because they're not just one and the same. I know a lot of people will have different specialists, but realistically your body works as one unit. So if one spot of your body or one area of your body is not functioning very well, it's going to impact especially your hormones. So let's go through today's webinar, okay? So first we're going to talk about men's health. So men's health, the top four things that we're going to cover here is going to be diabetes, heart disease, depression, and testosterone issues. So these are the four kind of biggest things that most men are going to have issues with. And a lot of times we ignore them until they become the problem, right? So the first sign of a heart attack is often a heart attack. So you have to really start to gauge your overall health based on some things prior to these things happening, okay? So type 1 versus type 2 diabetes. So when we talk about type 1 diabetes, that's the one where your pancreas isn't secreting the hormone insulin. So that's more of an autoimmune issue. So there's still things that you can do to help yourself be healthier, even with type 1 diabetes. There's new breakthroughs coming through all the time. And just know that you don't have to be tied down as a type 1 diabetic and still not think of yourself as being healthy, okay? So type 2 diabetes, men are twice as likely to get diagnosed with type 2 diabetes than women. So the age issues, usually between 18 to 39, that's usually when most type 1 diabetics are going to be diagnosed. When you're over 40, 82%. So what happens? Well, as we get older, we often become less active. Our dietary changes become wrapped up in life, right? So many people are having kids. So we start to eat off the kids' plate and our own plate. So we're adding extra calories. So 82% of diagnosed type 2 after 40. So just know that that's why this is an important topic. Myself, I have a history of type 1 diabetes. My dad is a type 1 diabetic. So this really hits home for me, where I really wanted to make sure that my insulin levels are as good as they possibly can be, knowing that I have that in my family. So heart disease, the leading cause of death in the United States, over 659,000 deaths per year. So a lot of the advice that we've been given should have seen this number decrease, but it continues to increase year after year, and you have to start asking yourself why. So the University of Minnesota, Dr. Ansel Keys, so that's kind of where the cholesterol, quote unquote, myth kind of came about. So the two main contributing factors for that growth of heart disease is low-fat foods and vegetable oils, which they really promoted back then. So if you're eating these two types of things and you think that you're being healthy, you've been told a lie. Okay, heart disease, what can you do, guys? This is awesome. So get rid of processed foods. So if you think about it, vegetable oils are a processed food. Eating more free-range organic meats and throw away those vegetable oils, right? So that's super important. Start incorporating those healthy fats like olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil as replacements. You have so many different choices now than what we had in the past. You know, we were given canola oils, corn oils, things like that, but now we have all these other options that we can utilize ready available on the shelf. So start swapping those out. I wouldn't even wait. Just throw away the vegetable oil, get rid of it, and start replacing it with the good oils, because just finishing it isn't going to help you at all. Walking is a wonderful way to start improving your health, right? Simple and easy to do, helps with stress levels, which helps with heart disease. Body weight exercises, muscle is king. To me, muscle mass is a vital sign, even more important than your blood pressure, because often when you have more muscle mass, your blood pressure will go down and so will your blood sugar. So increases in insulin sensitivities with muscle mass, so you become less likely to be a diabetic. reducing inflammation in the body and improving the health of the digestive system. Because once again, a great time to go for a walk actually is after you eat a meal. So a 10-minute walk helps you digest your food, relax, so that the digestive process actually improves upon that. The moral of the story is that heart disease may run in your family, but it does not mean you need to be like them. So this is where we can introduce the term epigenetics. So when you have your family history, it's really what your family's history of doing things in their environment, so the things that they ate, the activity levels that they did do back then. Are you following those same things? So if you're following that family history, you should see where that's going to take you. So how your parents are at this point in time. Now, if you change that and want to take a healthier pathway, if they have heart disease, diabetes, then you want to start to look at the things that they did and do the opposite, really is what it amounts to it, okay? So next we're going to talk about depression. So when we talk about depression, you have to talk about the gut and the brain axis. So what that means is basically the signals from your gut to your brain goes about 90% that way, and only 10% from your brain down to your gut. So as those two things communicate, because when you eat food, your gut has to tell your brain, hey, I'm full, right? And that does it through a very large nerve called your vagus nerve. So poor gut health also leads to fewer neurotransmitters. So most of our neurotransmitters are made in our gut. So especially the stress resiliency one called serotonin. So often people will be placed on what's called a serotonin reuptake inhibitor. So basically what that does is stops your body from breaking down serotonin, so it leaves it around a little longer. Well, if you don't have enough serotonin in your body to produce, you don't have anything to stop it from breaking it down. So you can't make something from nothing. So there's where I really try to get patients to think about, can we get more in our diet, the things that are needed to make these types of things like serotonin. So specifically tryptophan would be that one. So when people go to Thanksgiving and they eat turkey and tryptophan is supposed to make you fall asleep, that's really a lie. It's more the carb overload that you do, but tryptophan definitely is the amino acid from the protein that you utilize to make serotonin, okay? So just like when people, for males especially, when they need to get out of mom's basement, as often as the analogy I use, they're low on dopamine, so often low on tyrosine. That's why they're downstairs playing video games, because that will give them that boost of dopamine, just like any other thing, addictive behaviors, all those types of things that men are usually more prone to. Those are the things that we want to eat in order to raise those levels. So amino acids come from protein, so meat often is going to be your best sources for those types of things, and tyrosine will make dopamine. So approximately 90% of all, like I just talked about, 90% of all serotonin, the feel-good chemicals, this, I like to say stress resiliency in our brain, comes from our gut. So this is it's a very silent epidemic when it comes to men and depression. Guys don't like to talk about it often till it's usually too late, right? Suicide rates in men over 18 far outweigh women. So depression, right? So stress, the body's chronic stress response lowers our tolerance by stealing the needed substances. So I like to call this the tryptophan steal. So like I just said, tryptophan is needed to make serotonin. So what I'll tell patients often is your body really doesn't care if you're happy, it cares that you're alive. So what it needs to do is it steals tryptophan to make vitamin B3, so niacin, because that goes into a chemical that allows your cells to stay healthy and be alive. So if your cells aren't healthy, you're not healthy, and you can't be alive, right? So if your cells start to die, you die. Once again, your body doesn't care if you have too little serotonin and you're unhappy. It just cares that you're alive. So it's a survival mechanism. So other stressors that include that will affect your body's ability to produce serotonin will be inflammation, so specifically inflammation of your gut. If you have inflammation of your gut, you also have inflammation of your brain. This is why often when we have somebody who comes in with a head injury, so a concussion or a traumatic brain injury, we work on both. You just can't work on the brain and not the gut. Both are affected. Lack of sleep, so if we're having issues with insomnia, we're just trying to burn the candle at both ends, those types of things. Lack of sleep will often cause stress on our body and low serotonin levels and uncontrolled blood sugar levels. Often when people are getting up in the middle of the night, it's because their blood sugar is spiking up and down. So when your body when the blood sugar goes down, that's when people often will get up because your body's like, hey, I need something to eat to raise that blood sugar up, because it becomes to a critical stage at that point in time. So some of the nutrients that we often lack when we're talking about depression. So the depression I want to kind of talk about just right now is the difference between depression and anxiety. So anxiety is often more tied with women, and we'll get to that aspect as well too. But anxiety is usually where you can't sleep, you have thoughts that just don't want to shut off, things like that. Where depression, you don't want to get out, like I was talking about, don't want to get out of bed, you don't want to get out of mom's basement, you have low motivation, things like that. Both will have sleep issues, right? One sleeps all day, the other one can't sleep, and they're tired that way. So let's talk about depression and some of the nutrients, because you're not going to give the same thing to those people, because you don't want to, with depression, we want to build them up. So we're talking about adrenal glands, so that's those types of things where we want to build up those adrenal glands to help support them, where with anxiety, we need to calm those down. So let's talk about the depression one now. So lack of B vitamins, especially like B3 that I talked about, that's huge. We can go into B12 as an energy molecule, B9, so folate. Those are all super important. And just to take one as a standalone often doesn't work very well, because they often work in conjunction with each other. There are certain times, especially when we're talking about some depressive people, that I will give B3 in higher doses in order to help them overcome the depression, the tryptophan steal. Zinc, super important. It's important with your thyroid. It's important, so metabolic rate, how fast and slow things go. Super important for testosterone level. DHA portion of the fish oil. So that's the brain food that we really like to give to patients. Magnesium helps with blood sugar issues, muscle aches and pains, cramping, things like that. And amino acids that I talked about. So the three big ones really, the two big ones, especially for depression, are going to be tyrosine and phenylalanine, and then we can wrap in tryptophan as well too for serotonin levels. All right, low testosterone. So there's a great book called The Countdown. A little technical, but very good read by Dr. Swan. She's been tracking testosterone levels over the last, I think, 15 years in the book. Goes through, and even farther back then, that from 1973 to 2011, the total sperm count in men in the Western countries, so the Western civilization, so considered the first world countries, has dropped by 59%. So we're seeing an epidemic of infertility, not from females, but actually from males. So the 1% of male fertility, basically over the last number of years, male fertility has gone down by 1%. So when somebody comes in and it's often a female, right? They're the ones that usually drive the healthcare decisions in the family. If they're having issues with fertility, if the husband hasn't been tested or hasn't wanted to be tested, it works both ways. It just isn't going to work. So you need to be able to have both people on the same page with that and getting those types of things. So cleaning up the male's diet is just only going to help enhance the fertility level for both male and females. So what does testosterone help to do? Decrease excess body fat. That's why it's super important. So as we talked about with the type 2 diabetes, that you're usually going to see fat around the belly for men, and that usually tells me low testosterone levels. It's a natural antidepressant. Higher testosterone levels, typically you don't see that in depressive men. Helps maintain memory, super good for cognitive ability, increased muscle mass and strength. Once again, it's a vital sign. Muscle mass increases sense of emotional well-being and self-confidence and motivation, right? So the higher your testosterone level, the more motivation, the better you feel. Aches and pains are nearly gone, those types of things. Increases in sexual interest and reproductive ability. This is a big one because we're seeing that less and less offspring are being produced now by families. So the interest of actually having children, and there has to be some correlation here with stress levels and low testosterone levels, so that males are like, yeah, I don't really care if I have kids. Like, okay, so that's not really where we want to be, and we're actually not having enough children to move the species along further in this world. Okay. Here's a list of the things that we often find in males these days that can act like toxins. So once again, for what causes the disappearing male is like I like to call it. Adrenal stress, so cortisol actually will steal something called pregnenolone, and it'll make our testosterone, it'll take from testosterone so you can't make it, and it actually will make more cortisol, and it'll also make more estrogen going that way. Toxins, plastics, heavy metals, personal hygiene products, we've talked about this. I highly encourage you to go back and download our detoxification guides and go through those as well too, because you can't have a clean fish in a dirty bowl. So we need to clean up the environment that we're in, because a lot of these toxins act like estrogen in our body, lowering our testosterone levels. And you can read that in the book, The Countdown. She goes through that. So basically it was just reaffirming all the things that I've been talking about and that she's seen. So increase in aromatase, which basically takes your testosterone and turns it into estrogen. There was a study done by a researcher, Tyrone Hayes. So he studied the effect on pesticides, specifically for a certain company, that on frogs. And what he found is that male frogs eventually could mate with other male frogs and produce offspring. So that's not how it's supposed to be in this world. And he found that this aromatase is what gets turned on due to that. So basically we're taking males and turning them into females due to this. It's also one of the leading causes of breast cancer. So there's where the companies that make these products to kill weeds, they also make pharmaceutical agents to help turn off aromatase. So that's kind of a not such a good thing. So diet high in refined carbs. So we were told to eat low fat over the how many years since Ansel Keys said fat kills people. And now we have higher incidence of diabetes, heart disease, low testosterone. So those refined carbs, those are huge issues because they spike your estrogen levels just along as it. So when it spikes insulin, your estrogen level will go up. That's what gives you the big belly. Medications, asthma inhalers, antidepressants, antihistamines, cholesterol-lowering drugs. You can't make testosterone without cholesterol. So all those guys going on cholesterol-lowering drugs, they're going to have lower testosterone levels, and it's going to shrink your brain because you need cholesterol for your brain as well too. Tagamet, or I would just put in all acid reflux medications, right? Because if you can't break down your protein in your stomach, you can't absorb those amino acids in order to make the byproducts. You can't break down the fat in order to make and abstract, to get the cholesterol and the needed nutrients out of the fat as well to make those hormones as well. Pain medications, opioids, just huge nowadays. Gut dysbiosis, so basically gut issues, gallbladder dysfunction, and infections all play a huge role in lowering testosterone levels. So what are the steps that we need to take as males to help improve our overall health? So get your testosterone levels checked. I really like to use the Dutch test. It's easy. It's way more accurate than blood levels. Blood levels seem to fluctuate much more than when we start to see issues in testosterone. We can also see how you're driving the breakdown of the estrogen that comes into your life. So all those, there's a couple of different there's 3 different pathways that your body will break down estrogen. We want to make sure that you're breaking it down through the safest pathway possible, and this Dutch test tells us that. It also gives us your cortisol levels. So if you're low on cortisol, those are the depressive issues. If you're high on cortisol, those are the issues with anxiety. So I really love the Dutch test. It's also a very easy test to do. Make changes in diet. Increase your good quality proteins. We talked about the organic meats, the free range, grass-fed meats. Go to good protein or good fats, right? So avocado, coconut oil, olive oil. So the Mediterranean diet, get more fish in your diet. That's super important. Make sure it's wild caught as much as you can. Eliminate sugary drinks. Over 50% of our calories come from liquid, right? So if you're not getting your calories from all those sugary drinks, energy drinks especially, because guys, they tend to be the bigger buyers of energy drinks because of the low energy that they have in the morning. And so they drink that to give them that spike of energy, and then they crash and have to have another one. So their blood sugar is also doing the same thing. So consume lots of cruciferous vegetables. I really like to make sure that patients first start to cook their vegetables. You don't have to make them so soggy, but given a little bit of cooked vegetables will help the digestive process, so you can so you can get some of those nutrients out of those foods. A lot of people's digestive issues, especially if we're dealing with some gut dysbiosis, gut inflammation, you're not going to be able to break those down, and it's going to make you feel like crud. Detoxifying those bad estrogens with those types of nutrients. I like our detox shake that we use. The Core Restore is really good at jump starting this. We'll talk about some other things that we can do as well. Looking at changing personal hygiene products, that's really important. So the shampoos you use, the underarm deodorant, the down to the toothpaste, right? So getting rid of the fluoride, skincare products. Guys usually their shelf is really small, so they're only using a certain amount of products. So it shouldn't be too hard to be able to swap those out on a daily basis. Okay. Other lifestyle changes, sleep. So guys, you got to get your sleep in because testosterone levels are highest when you sleep and after you exercise. So definitely getting good quality sleep, limiting the blue light from electronics, getting a pair of amber colored sunglasses really helps with that. Even a red tint sunglass is really good too because that will help block those blue lights at night, or just shut off the TV an hour before bed. That's always good. Don't be on your phone so much, so a digital detox. Make sure you fill your head with positive thoughts at night to calm and uplift your well-being, right? So if it's reading the Bible, reading a book, saying affirmations, just getting something in front of you that helps uplift you, so that you can start the day the next morning raring to go. All right. Next, we're going to talk about women's health. So we're going to go over the top 3 health concerns. So anxiety. So typically, guys are more depressive, women more anxious. Hormone imbalances. So once again, guys have low testosterone. Often women have high estrogen issues, and that can be mixed in with low progesterone or normal progesterone with high and normal estrogen as well too. And then thyroid dysfunction. It's one of the biggest things that women often will come in. Do you think I have thyroid issues? Well, we need to get it tested in order to know. The thyroid really is our early warning system. So we'll go into that. So anxiety. So when we look at the bell curve of anxiety and depression, we want to be in the middle. And what we're talking about realistically is dopamine levels. So when our dopamine level is too high, we redline, and that's where we're going to get anxious. So it really doesn't have to do a lot with serotonin. You can still have high dopamine and normal serotonin and still feel anxious. And that's why a SSRI, so like a Prozac or a Zoloft, if they give it to you because you're anxious, and you get even more anxious, that's because your serotonin level was normal and it now drove you to even more serotonin. So you need to get off of that because that is a health concern. So 3 ways to make your body more resilient to stress: improve the health of the gut. 90% of your serotonin made right there in the gut. So you got to have your good bugs in there. You got to feed those things, and you got to make sure that the inflammation is out of there. Work on the tryptophan steal. This is where your body starts to steal tryptophan. So tryptophan is an amino acid, like we talked about with the men, that goes into making serotonin. So if you aren't getting enough protein in your diet, or you're not digesting your protein, so low stomach acid, so that goes in with the gut, you're not going to be able to extract the tryptophan in order to make serotonin. Okay. Other things that happen is you get B3 that isn't being eaten in your diet. It might be due to stress that's going on in your body. You're not able to secure it in the stomach as well too. So there's a lot of different things where we can help these people with the tryptophan steal. Work on estrogen levels, both males and females. So once again, plastic, it's everywhere. So getting rid of as much plastic in your household as possible. Pesticides, making sure you're eating as much organic fruits and vegetables. I really like the Healthy Living app and the Environmental Working Group. They're Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen. Make sure you're following that guide. Personal hygiene products. Once again, go to our detox guide and go through those things and start swapping out a lot of these products, getting rid of the high toxicity level products that are causing you to have more anxiety, more issues inside your gut, those types of things. So hormone imbalances. Let's talk about PCOS. So what is it exactly? It's a combination of increased androgen, so male hormones, so testosterone, ovulatory dysfunction, and cysts. So those are the 3 main things that need to be for the diagnosis of PCOS. Realistically, what it is, you're getting too much insulin, so you have a blood sugar issue, and that's driving too much estrogen, which then gets turned into testosterone in females. That's why you get the hair on your face from this PCOS. So lifestyle factors, so that's the things that you're eating. Create a healthy gut, reduce oxidative stress inside the body is key. So when we have, like say, a low CO2 level I know that your body is acidic, and we need to start getting some of those oxidative stress out of the body, addressing the inflammation going on. If all inflammation starts in the gut and all disease starts in the gut. So once again, you can't have a good hormone balance if you don't have a healthy gut. The diet is most important. That seems to be the best for this is the Mediterranean diet. The Mediterranean diet is always the top rated diet whenever they start rating it. So that's over paleo, over keto, over carnivore diet type things. So realistically, when we talk about diet, it's if we eat real food and get enough of the nutrient dense foods that will help us with the byproducts in order to make these hormones and control our blood sugar, you will do just fine. So realistically, getting a good amount of protein for your body, you're getting all colors of fruits and vegetables. So when people say, I'm just going to do this, I'm just going to do that, it's really what you're going to stick with and eat the most, okay? So 50% of women go undiagnosed with PCOS because they might not have two of the three things, or they don't know, or the ranges that are on a lot of these lab tests are too large. And so by the time you get to a diagnosis, you've already been on that track, and you're often given the wait and see. So we need to look at things before they get to that point in order to make a lifestyle change at that point in time. So 6 to 10% of women have PCOS. And the U.S. spends $4 billion annually to identify and manage PCOS just in general. So that's a huge amount of money that people could do other things with, and that we could actually make ourselves healthier with that. Hormone imbalances, so fibroids and endometriosis, these are other two main issues that people come in with. So treat fibroids and endometriosis, reduce the estrogen in the body, and improve elimination of estrogen by the body. So this is where that Dutch test really comes in, where we can see how you're eliminating estrogen. Add indole 3-carbinol and calcium D-glucarate. These are two really important molecules that are involved in the breakdown and basically the securing of estrogen so that you can get rid of it safely. Support the stomach acid and gallbladder. Bile is very, very important. So those people that often get their gallbladders out, I already know they have an estrogen issue, because the gallbladder is your most sensitive organ to high estrogen levels. That's why it gets taken out. So you need that bile to break down the estrogen at the end. Improving insulin sensitivity. I like berberine. It's super important. It's super easy to take. It also helps with it's antimicrobial, so it kills infections in your gut. Fish oil. I like fish oil after a meal, 2 to 3 capsules. That'll help with the blood sugar spikes. MCT oil also helps with that. So all these good fats, right? Helps keep your blood sugar. Turmeric helps greatly reduce this process as well too. You need turmeric also for reducing inflammation in the gut. So all these types of things are very, very important for that. All right, thyroid dysfunction. The thyroid is a gland right in your throat. So it uses iodine in the body to create thyroid hormone. So you also need something called tyrosine, which also plays a big role in depression, right? So tyrosine is the backbone. So if you're not getting enough protein, that's very, very difficult to make then. If you're not digesting your proteins from your stomach acid, that's also a big thing. So you're hearing stomach acid an awful lot because that's where the digestive process starts, and it's often where we go to first. So the thyroid's main function in the body. So it regulates hormone production, regulates metabolism, controls cardiac and digestive function, and ensures proper brain development. So generally it's how hot and cold things are and how fast and slow things are going on in your body, okay? That's why body temperature, when people have low thyroid function, they get cold. So it's the temperature, right? Here are some few ways you can support your thyroid. Adjustments, keep the nervous system communicating so that your body can heal and pursue homeostasis. So basically the balance in the body, it's always very important. Those nerves go to all these organs. So if there's issues there, it will decrease organ function. Vitamin D, very important. Selenium, people forget about selenium, but it's needed to convert to produce thyroid hormone in your body. It also helps with viruses, because there's a couple of, especially Epstein-Barr virus, the monovirus, that will cause you to have antibodies to your thyroid, so Hashimoto's disease. Continue prenatal vitamins, because prenatal vitamins are often amped up a little bit more. I really like our packets of prenatal vitamins because you get some vitamin D and you also get some fish oil in there as well. So omega-3s is right there, always important. Probiotics, give your gut what it needs to be able to be healthy. Avoid gluten. Gluten, this is where we get into molecular mimicry. So gluten, the protein in gluten looks like your thyroid. So your body will produce antibodies to gluten, and it will produce antibodies to your thyroid. So that's why gluten's issues often are equated with thyroid, Hashimoto's disease. When you get tested for your thyroid, those are the things that you need to be looking for. And avoid toxins. You want a slow thyroid function, you just live in a soupy mess of toxins, okay? Perimenopause. This refers to the years of hormonal upheaval before the final menstrual period, right? It can begin in a woman's in the mid-30s or 40s. Common perimenopausal symptoms that can bring in one's late 30s include more frequent periods, worsening PMS, deteriorating libido, and growing waistline. So all the things that you women basically hate to have happen. So you may find that old methods of coping, occasional exercise, yoga, right? That's a huge one for a lot of women at this time. Chocolate, glass of wine most nights, right? Increasing insulin levels right there. Don't seem to work as well as for perimenopausal symptoms. So most common menopausal complaints, so headaches, joint pain. So as we're getting, I'm getting older, mood swings. So you just can't seem to, you're like anxious one minute, depressed the next, breast pain, trouble focusing. So those a big, huge thing. Less hair on the head. So often we'll start to see hair loss there, or hair growing in places where you didn't want it to. New or increased number of urinary tract infections, weight changes, usually in the wrong direction, insomnia, more hair on the face, and vaginal dryness. So menopause is the time that in women's life when menstruation stops, usually naturally, most often after the age of 45. Menopause is defined as the absence of menstrual periods for 1 year, okay? Recommendations: lower your carbohydrate intake in your diet, right? So when we're talking about carbohydrates, we really want to make sure that if you're getting your carbohydrates from fruits and vegetables, great, continue to do that. When we're talking about the refined carbohydrates, so anything that looks white or is made with flour, refined sugars, that types of things, those are the things that really are creating a lot of these issues. So try to eat as much organic food as you possibly can, because those toxins, those pesticides, they act like estrogen, or they're going to throw off the whole system and give you that hormone imbalance. Adding fish oil, and I really like what's called pro-resolving mediators. So this helps reduce inflammation. It's basically the end of what fish oil becomes in your body. And about 40% of the population doesn't turn fish oil into the anti-inflammatory PRMs that it needs to in order to resolve inflammation. So I like to use this product to help these people even further reduce inflammation. Vitamin D3 with K2, very important. So we're in a northern climate, and even people in the southern states, right, when it gets really hot, they stay inside. So they're not outside getting vitamin D. A detoxification program. Why is a detoxification program important for your thyroid? Well, your thyroid secretes two hormones, T4 and T3. And primarily it's T4, so 80% of that production is T4 hormone, which basically isn't really doing anything in your body. It's not very active. T3 is what I call a gas. So T4 needs to be converted into T3, and that is done in the liver 75% of the time and 25% of the time in your gut. So that's why your liver and your gut are so important to your overall health. So if you do a detoxification program in the beginning to help improve the process of T4 converting into T3, that's very, very helpful. So you don't have to struggle with these types of symptoms that we've talked about if we do some simple steps and start the right way and improve gut health and those types of things, okay? So infertility affects men and women, like I talked about. So that book, The Countdown, it's very telling. She goes over both men and women, but primarily it's really about talking about men's testosterone levels and how low it's actually getting. It's very sad to me to see the wide range of, on a testosterone level, when people come in and they're at like a 300. They're not feeling good, but the doctor says, oh, your testosterone level looks good. Well, that's a disservice to that male. He's going in, it's hard enough for men to go in as it is to admit that something's wrong, right? So when you go in there and the doctor says everything's fine, and you don't feel fine, it really isn't helping that person. So realistically, when you go in, you need to find somebody that's going to recognize the signs and symptoms of what's going on and put it all together even if your levels are in the range. So you're not feeling good at a level of 300. You're feeling good at like a 750 to 1,000. Super good, right? I mean, your testosterone level is where it needs to be, no matter the age. The fact that they start talking about testosterone levels lowering at 40 is because that you see the incidence of higher insulin levels decreasing testosterone levels in males. So it doesn't have to be the case, okay? So infertility is not simply a female problem. So how can males and females improve their health and decrease stress in order to improve fertility? One way to decrease stress is through exercise, right? Muscle mass, improving that. Oxidative stress is another leading cause of male infertility. Basically, you're frying the sperm when you have oxidative stress. There's research showing oxidative stress causes at least 30% of male infertility. So think about high refined carbohydrates creating all these oxidation rate reduction processes going in your body, and that stress now basically causes acidic environment and decreases the sperm count and actually sperm motility as well too. So infertility, both men and women, number one, diet. So high quality fats. Once again, fat is super important. So get rid of those vegetable oils. Keep doing that. Get avocado oil, olive oil, coconut oil, all super easy and really good to use. If you can use what's called MCT oil. So that's basically the coconut oil in a liquefied version. Super good to be and easy to use. Never goes bad, so it can sit on your shelf. When it sits on your shelf there, it's also antimicrobial. That's why it never goes bad. So it's never going to grow anything on there. So when you take it, it actually does part of the gut healing as well. So reducing inflammation, fats are anti-inflammatory. Eat organic whenever possible. I would just say, yes, as much as you possibly can. A lot of restaurants now have organic options, so please go do that. Detoxification. Once again, download our detox guide. Go back. You can still sign up and get through the detox program, and then just follow this next steps through the hormone balancing as well too. Get rid of the plastics. Avoid estrogen dominance. Be intentional with cleaning products, bath and body products, makeup, perfumes, all those personal hygiene products. Download the Healthy Living app. That's very important. It's easy to use. It's got a scanning function. Shop at co-ops. Look at places, shop in the organic sections in grocery stores. They're growing by the minute. Buy from local organic farms as much as you can. Physical health. Consistent movement helps the body stay connected and is necessary for function. Specific chiropractic adjustments help. Obviously, I'm a big proponent of chiropractic care, helping keeping the body as functional as possible. Your nervous system is pretty much what controls everything, right? So once your nervous system starts to get impacted by any type of thing, we start to have issues there. I've done a video on this a couple of times with how birth control pills are a robber of your overall health. So if you guys are interested in more information, if you want to sit down and do one of our lifestyle evaluation appointments, fill out the guide and all the paperwork for that. Definitely reach out to us. We're on Facebook. Our website is a wealth of information. I've done webinars in the past on many of these topics, short videos as well too. We have an Instagram page as well. So sign up for these and you can learn a ton more about a lot of these issues that we've talked about today. Thanks guys, hope you enjoyed this one.